Are here now to talk prospects, and we're going to start with a European prospect whose name is in the draft buzz circle at the moment because he had a huge game the other day, and that is, of course, Zachary Rissache, playing over in the playoffs over in Europe at the moment for JL Borg. Rissache is 19, he's 6'9", he's a wing/forward. The numbers that people can see on the screen there are per 40-minute pace-adjusted stats, which may not be 100% up-to-date because games are still going on over there. 19 and 6 with 1.6 steals, 22 usage, 44% three-point attempt rate. I've explained to people, Leaf, why I don't like to highlight three-point percentage necessarily. It's more about how many you're getting up, what's your free throw number, what's your overall efficiency, how often you get into the line. I think they all seem to be better indicators of three-point shooting success rate. The assist to turnover rate is really low with Rissache. He's a guy that his name was bandied about quite a bit even before the season as a guy in the mix. And for me, he was one of the guys where I just saw wild divergence in opinions. Like, bro, what is this guy? Like, none of these shots go in every team that he's on. He never seems to stand out, but he always gets pumped up. And then had some struggles this season, had a nice second half, had this big game here. Where are you at with Rissache? Because I still can't get a full handle on what he is. Like 54 field goal percentage, it's not bad. Like, you want it a little bit higher, but it's not bad. 72 from the line, it's fine. Like, it's okay. He's taking threes. They're sort of going in. I don't really know what he is as a player.
Yeah, I think the reason that there's such a wide variance in opinions is because if some people have him at 1, other people have him at 10, and in this class, if you're getting that type of player at 10 in an ordinary class, you're excited, but at 1, excuse me, there's a bunch of questions. If you're drafting that guy at 1, that the best version of the archetype of a kind of a 3-point sniper that's tall, that isn't necessarily a ball dominant guy, is probably Michael Porter Jr. And Michael Porter Jr. is honestly a really good player, but nowhere near an all-star. And if you're drafting that at 1, that doesn't feel like a success. Now, if you draft him at 10, then that feels like a great success. And so I actually see him kind of as a younger version of Cam Johnson, who's right now paid $24 million a year in his second contract, which I would say is a success of a career. And he's a good shooter, and that type of archetype rarely fails inherently, but it's not the type that moves the needle for a team that you draft in the top 5 to feel ecstatic about the pick. Then that's why I think this class is regarded as poorly as it is, because if that's a top 5 pick and it's maybe a safer pick than some others, that gives you pause to draft that type of player in the long run. But I think what he's really good at is he has the measurables and the shooting capacity. At one time during the year, he's about 49% from 3. Then he had a tremendous cold streak, fell down to 35%. He's kind of cool, finding himself in the middle there. He's regressing to the mean or progressing now. And I think he's a guy that'll probably find himself drafted in the top 6 just because there's safety to this draft. And then the way that I think teams will operate is, instead of drafting for home runs, I think they're going to draft for singles, and he could maybe be a double if he hits his potential. But I think he's likely a really solid player, not one with superstar potential, in my opinion, though.
Yeah, I'm not very, at the moment, I'm not very high on him, but again, the way that this class sort of sits is I can't sit here and listen to you say things like, what are you talking about? You're wrong. Like, because I can't get a full grasp on where this is. And I think part of it is also just the way we position a draft. We go, well, if Rissache, if he goes in the top 3, I go, yeah, but this isn't a regular draft. There isn't a top 3 player available in all honesty. Like, is he the 8th best player drafted last season? 10th, maybe. It's annoying that gets slotted into a salary slot and you've wasted this draft capital on it, but what are you going to do? Like, that's just how it's going to go. But it is a hard sort of brain thing to push through, to go, well, you were pick 3 and you were pick 3. Why aren't you the same level of player? And I think that's a little bit of that. Now, in terms of me looking through, I did a bunch of stuff with the top 15 or so prospects to look at statistical shape and rate stats to see who they came out most likely. And the guy that Rissache came out, obviously it's Europe to college, so there's some wonkiness there, but it was Keegan Murray, a guy that did shoot really well in college. Had a pretty strong usage there, has turned into, or had a really good shooting year as a rookie, regressed a little bit. His defense changed. Like, is that like, how outrageous is that? Is it not a best case outcome? Or maybe you do think it is a best case outcome in terms of what Keegan did through college, but also more what he's doing now in the NBA.
Well, that's an interesting one, because Keegan coming out of college, I had questions about how his role would be shaped in the NBA. I figured he'd be a 3-and-D type of guy. That made sense. But in college, he had the ball so much in his hands at Iowa, where he would come off screens and handle, and he'd slash in his freshman year, which isn't the one he came out of, but he was a defender who was an energy guy, and then he developed into this guy. So I said, how real is this? And I think Keegan's been more of a success story than you possibly could have imagined, because going forward, I don't think that's where talent-wise he necessarily would have been drafted, but he was a better fit because the Kings had this stable of guards in the back where they had a center. And so instead of taking some of the players like Jaden Ivey, who may have been like the more boom or bust prospect, they went with a safer guy. And so far, Murray's had the better year. To get back to your question about Reese Hushay, I think that would be a success if Reese Hushay's first 2 years looked like Keegan Murray's. I think there's a chance he has more ball handling than Keegan Murray, because Keegan Murray plays next to De'Aaron Fox. I think if you play Reese Hushay in a team that doesn't have a established guard of the ilk of De'Aaron Fox, he's got the coordination to dribble the ball, but I don't think he's much of a facilitator. And I think Keegan Murray's a better defensive athlete than Reese Hushay. I think Reese Hushay's got the measurables, but he doesn't wow me with his defense. It's more smarts than athleticism, if that makes sense. And I think Keegan Murray has been a really good shooter in his first 2 years in the NBA. He showed the signs at Iowa, and he's so far been very good. Like you said, regressed slightly statistically, but had a larger role. And what impressed me is the volume. And I've got this theory about shooters coming into the draft. I don't think it's free throw percentage. I don't think it's 3-point percentage. What I think matters is the confidence that the coaches instill in you to shoot the ball. And so I think the best shooters typically coming into a draft shoot the most. So in this case, that would be the Peyton Samford of Iowa, ironically enough, or Baylor Shireman or Dalton Connect. I think are better shooters than guys who shot fewer threes but had slightly better percentages.
There was a guy, I don't remember what his name was, apologies to this man, that had a study on three-point shooting success in the NBA and basing on a bunch of different college metrics, and three-point attempt, that's why I didn't include three-point percentage, because there was like no correlation, but three-point attempt rate was one of the highest things that came across in terms of how successful you can be in the NBA. So that's a really good point. I think that is important. That is why I include it when we're talking about Reese Hushay here. Last thing on Zachary before we go. And this is probably, it's impossible to answer, but I'm going to put it out there anyway. Do you think that because of the hype surrounding Victor Wembanyama over the last 2 years, like before he was drafted for a full year into the season, that there has been an overinflation of French prospects? We had Bilal Koulibaly jump right up into the top 7. We're going to have Sarr, Reese Hushay. We're going to have Tidjane Salaam. We're going to have, it's the other guy's name, Pacom Dadier. We're going to have all these guys who may not have had that level of hype or even be draftable in some spots push up because of the we watched a lot of French ball when Victor was over there, or maybe this is the next group of great French players, or is that just no, they're actually just good?
Probably somewhere in between. I know that's a bit of a cop-out answer, but I'll at least defend it. So I think in the case of Bilal Koulibaly, he had traits, but the eyes were on the team he played for because of Victor Wembanyama, and he was a beneficiary of extra attention. And then I think in his case, people tricked themselves into saying, well, he's got these metrics and potential is something we really value in this league. And so defensively, he can do this. He's got positional versatility. But I think based on his actual basketball played up to that point, he probably wasn't warranting a 7th pick. I would say Reese Hushay has been a known commodity for a little while. So I don't think that one has to do that much with Wembanyama, but maybe like Tidjane Salaam, who I actually am starting to warm up to quite a bit, is someone that you say, well, we have this success story of Victor Wembanyama. We saw Koulibaly last year get picked 7th in what was deemed to be a very good class, and now there's one that is devoid of stars, and he's putting up numbers better than Koulibaly. I think there's a bit of a rationalization and a comparison that's given, and maybe the attention was given to French basketball because of Victor Wembanyama, which enlightened people to the depth of talent. But I do think the evaluation this year is just kind of fair on their own basketball, what's derived based off their basketball skill, because there's not that many stars. The college basketball landscape was more based on veterans and teams than individual stars than it has been in years past. Obviously, Dalton Connect would be like kind of the veteran star that stands out, as opposed to a Brandon Miller last year, who was a freshman star who stood out with similar stats. And so I think that made more of an emphasis be on international basketball because there were fewer collegiate stars.
Really interesting. We're going to get to some college players in a second. But firstly, today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. When you are hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the job. That doesn't mean hiring scouts for an NBA team or a GM who doesn't know what he's doing. It's about getting the right person into your business. And the best way to do that is with LinkedIn Jobs. It's not just a job board. It's LinkedIn. You know, there's a billion people, a billion professionals on LinkedIn. So you can put your job right under their noses. They can smell it, they can get into it, and they can really see whether it fits them. And small business owners report that they can get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Is it 86 or 84? No, it's actually 86% of the time. I'll almost shortchange them 2% on that. That is how successful LinkedIn Jobs is. So go ahead and post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That is linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.